Hey kids, do you like pro wrestling? Well, we like pro wrestling too. This week in the news, venue announcements. In the lazy river of wrestling criticism, we have a conversation about beta male energy in professional wrestling. Yes, we play sociologist. And at Vader Club, Chris is selected for our viewing pleasure from Slamboree 1998, Ultimo Dragon versus Eddie Guerrero. This is Shake the Ropes. I am Jeff Hawkins. He is Chris Novembrino.
It's actually a three-way match. It's Ultimo Dragon, Eddie Guerrero versus the audience.
Also kind of true. Did not record last night because I had dinner plans for the first time in a long time. And let me tell you, I've kind of built this up a little bit for Chris, but I don't know if it's going to pay off necessarily, but it always starts as well. It's going to start well when the night before you're going to go to dinner, the restaurant changes on the text chain because, one of the people doesn't want to go that far for the restaurant, and we want to be able to bring this person in, so okay, cool. I can deal with that. And then it's like, let's go to the Fogo de Chao because, I've heard good things about it. He had never been, the guy who decided to then take charge and change our dinner plans had never been to a Brazilian steakhouse. So we go to the Fogo de Chao in Beverly Hills, which is already a little bit more pricey than your usual Fogo de Chao. And when you go to a Brazilian steakhouse, if you've never been, the churrasco experience is what you go for at a Brazilian steakhouse for most people, I would think. Guys are bringing in the metal steaks with different kinds of meats, and they slice you off some, and you take your tongs and you bring some, and you have the red and the green button and all that other stuff. So we sit down. And the guy that we were making arrangements for was a vegan, but he's perfectly cool with just hitting the salad bar because it's a giant salad bar. I'm good with that. The guy who decided I've never been to a Brazilian steakhouse before just decides he wants a steak. He doesn't want to deal with all these other things. And it's like, no, Ed, get the churrasco experience. You get to try all different kinds of cuts and stuff. No, I just want a strip steak. And it's kind of flustered the waiter a little bit, but it's like, okay, cool. No, we can do that because it's on the menu, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, well, who do you like to drink? I'd like a beer. No, Ed, you have to tell him the kind of beer. This isn't a sitcom. He's like, do you have Sapporo? It's like, no, Ed, this is a Brazilian restaurant, not a Japanese one. And the poor waiter's head is getting ready to explode while we're doing this. And then at the end of the night, it's not just 4 cards and split it, quarter or whatever. He's calculating how, and then the kicker of this. He owns like 4 properties in Los Angeles, and he wants to take us to this new one that he's just gotten. He's just gotten the garage for this duplex type thing refurbished, and it is nice. And I'm like, so why were you being so cheap on trying to decide how much you had on the check or whatnot? And it's like, it was a surreal experience in Los Angeles with people who have, he's like, he bought the property in 1978 for like $60,000, and now it's worth like $4 million because there's 4 units and he can charge $3,500 a month for each unit, et cetera, et cetera. And he's in there calculating, all right, I got the strip steak, which is $20 less than you. So that's 6.3%. And if just like, dude, just say you're paying 70 and we'll go in on it. But yes, dinner with adults.
That is a way to like just ensure that you never get invited back out to
I'm
dinner.
Thinking about that now, and I love
it. If I wanted to politely ensure that no one ever asked me out again, but not actually give to make it ambiguous. Oh, we never want to ask Chris out again, but like not actually have a concrete reason. I would pull a move like this. Yes. I like that move. I like that move.
We were originally
you're perfectly pleasant at dinner. It's the bill comes out and you become the parsimonious asshole picking apart every single nuance of the dinner.
We were originally going to go to Maestro's, or Mastro's, bougie kind of steakhouse or whatever. It's like, because we're kind of celebrating like me and the cancer stuff and other things. But yeah, but it was originally in Orange County, and they didn't realize there was one in Beverly Hills that we could go to. And it's like, but yeah, what are you doing? I will say this though, on the dessert menu, they have a cheesecake brulee. That was one of the most heavenly things I have ever put into my mouth. I have never had cheesecake like that. I like creme brulee, but I had never had cheesecake brulee. Completely worth it.
I would have been incredulous and actually laughing at this person if he started doing this. Like I don't
we
think
did. We mocked him mercilessly.
I don't think I would have been able to contain myself. It would have just been like an endless string of like jokes with me ripping at him at his expense.
What is another
you petty Los Angeles prick parsing $20. $20 in Los Angeles, which is like $3.50 here in New Mexico.
Yes. And it's like I'm trying to think of a parallel restaurant experience where you just don't want. I mean, like the vegan even got like a cauliflower steak and got the salad bar, and he was happy with his meal because he knew what he was getting into coming to a Brazilian steakhouse. He knew, okay, I'm gonna be surrounded by meat. You guys have your fun. Or whatever, he's doing it for dietary reasons more than moralistic ones. It's trying to get his cholesterol down. He and his wife are doing that, but he used to be a meat eater, so he doesn't mind it or whatever. But what is a parallel restaurant experience where you could just be contrarian instead of being the guy at the party who's having fun? I think Brazilian steakhouses might be the only thing, unless you're doing like calabashing on the East Coast, on seafood buffets, and you decide to have a sandwich or something.
So here's another end of dinner flex you could do. You could order more than everyone else, get the coffee, get the dessert, run up your side of the ticket and extra 35 for it, and then just go, we're splitting it 3 ways down the middle dollar amount.
I've never had that. I've never, gotten mad at that though. Really, because I just assume, okay, everybody's going to want to split this 3 ways, as opposed, once you're an adult or once you're of a certain age, like it's not going to be one of those things. Can we have separate checks, please?
I'm saying, like, tack on the salad, tack on the dessert, tack on the coffee, all of the extra accoutrement.
We're going to order all the appetizers so that we can all share them.
Or actually, I want to start off with a couple of apps to myself before dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the flex here. Like,
is it a flex? Okay.
But see, here's the thing: is that becomes too obvious throughout the course of the meal. This other strategy that this person you went to dinner with that they employed is very subtle, because you can go through dinner seeming like not a prick and only unmask yourself as a Mondo prick at the very end. In my strategy, you're coming the second I'm like shoving like the wings in my mouth and stuff. It's cut out. I'm an asshole. But this strategy is a good one.
I'm excusing him because he's in his 70s and he had never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, but still, it's one of those things where it's like, do your due diligence a little bit. It's not just a steak. You want different kinds of meat. But, yeah, I guess we have to go into wrestling now. We could do 2 hours of not wrestling if you wanted to. But, no, lawyers for John Laurinaitis, WWE, and Vince McMahon all filed motions in U.S. District Court in Connecticut on Friday in opposition, shocker, of the amended lawsuit Janelle Grant's team filed last month. McMahon's team was first to file opposition, then Laurinaitis and WWE bringing up the rear. I believe that Laurinaitis and McMahon are aligned officially. I forget the term because I've been out of law for so long.
In cahoots.
Not in, no, it starts with in, but I can't remember it now. I talked about it before, but I didn't read the filings, but I just assume it's like, hey, we still want the NDA, and we'll see what happens. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, at this point...
Oh, hold on. I have another paragraph to read. McMahon's lawyer, Jessica Rosenberg, argued in the opposition filing that the amended lawsuit from Grant's side is in quote-unquote bad faith, suggesting that the amendment was simply a public relations play and arguing that Grant should be held to the NDA she signed prior to filing the original lawsuit.
They remain very intent on keeping this a contract litigation matter to
Yes.
be settled in arbitration, and it looks like they are really doing a pretty decent job boxing Grant's team out from ever getting this to be the criminal case that they want it to be, and that a lot of people want it to be, including myself.
I'm trying to remember what I'm trying to think of the term. I can't remember. It starts with in, and I can't remember.
In flagrante delicto.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, sure. Why not go there? Venues, as I mentioned. AEW announcing that Double or Nothing this year, moving out of Las Vegas and coming into Arizona. It will be in Glendale, Arizona, at the former hockey arena out there. WWE announcing that WrestleMania for next year will be in New Orleans once again. I like New Orleans as a city. I do. I don't think you can pay me enough to go to the Superdome ever again to watch a WrestleMania, because leaving there, you feel. I mean, it's an old stadium, and you just feel constrained trying to get out, because if you don't like tight, small places with lots of people moving very, very slowly, just stay at home and watch it, or leave before WrestleMania, which a lot of people do. They just watch the indie shows and they leave. But it's interesting what AEW is doing. They're doing a lot of their pay-per-views here and a lot of shows in this first quarter of 2025 out here in the West Coast. Like they're on a California kick, I believe, this week. They were in Phoenix this past Wednesday night. They're doing Revolution here in LA at crypto.com. It's an interesting strategy. Usually, they've been very at home on the East Coast. Any thoughts, Chris?
I don't really understand AEW's business/growth strategy at this point, and it's hard to look at any of the towns that they're running in strategically for me, because I don't see a lot of strategy on the screen week to week.
I think the strategy of doing Double or Nothing in Glendale is that it's still close enough to Los Angeles for the travel crew type of people to come out there and watch a pay-per-view and then go home, or a short flight out of Burbank like me. Los Angeles, it's just, they have that hot, or they used to have a really hot indie scene. GCW sells out regularly out here. PWG used to be the big monster, but they haven't run in a while since Super Dragon's girlfriend had cancer, and they kind of took time off to fight that. They still want the big cities. I mean, Full Gear was in San Francisco, Double or Nothing in Las Vegas. They want the big city feel and the big city thing, and I don't. It was originally they were doing all these large cities and large arenas to kind of do the WrestleMania / major pay-per-view experience. So you'd have indie shows coming in to work, and then you could scout talent there to sign them.
I also think they're on a little bit of a knife's edge after this Australia stuff. I don't think, the Australia show went amazing for them in terms of business.
Third highest gate in their history.
Yeah. That it was supposed to be a pay-per-view, right?
It was originally going to be a pay-per-view, and then they turned it into Collision, I think.
Right. Okay, that's not great.
No, and they had to move venues.
So then you have a third highest gate in your history for what is the equivalent of WCW Thunder.
Okay. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, they were very happy over there by getting their third highest gate ever, because they could charge tickets.
I get that they like the money part of it. I get that part, but okay, at a certain point you have to look at the 5-year chart and go, has the needle been moving here?
Right. Well, I mean, they got that big TV deal.
I mean, and how are the ratings?
They virtually tied NXT this week, who had NXT had, I think, their lowest number of 2025.
So they're fighting with NXT still 5 years in.
Pretty much.
Like they started off with the Wednesday Night Wars, and then now 5 years later, they're still in the Wednesday Night Wars. Only we
Yes.
don't call it that anymore because it's not flattering to AEW. So I get it. Big contract, nice gate. Where are you?
Speaking of the NOLA announcement, the person to make it, Rock showing up on SmackDown last night to give a promo because he's The Rock. TV plans did not originally have him doing anything, but here he is coming in, and he's going to cut a promo, and nobody's sure if he's a babyface or heel, but he wants Cody to quote-unquote be his champion. And a lot of people are reading into Cody as a corporate champion type of storyline, or whether this is sowing the seeds for if Rock doesn't have a movie. Maybe New Orleans, Rock decides to show up and do a match. Who knows?
I have no idea what to make of this. And I think, I don't, Rock has completely lost the thread in 2025 here from that first series of promos earlier this year on Raw and then NXT. To this now, he was intriguing last year. Final boss, Mama Rhodes, beating Cody up. This thing about the bloodline and his interactions with this, but now that the bloodline's kind of this confusing mishmash of Jacob Fatu fighting with Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns is the original tribal. There's just a lot of goofy and moving parts inside the bloodline stuff. It's not super interesting anymore. And then Rock doesn't really fit into Cody's story at this point. Right now, Cody's story is Punk. This kind of collision course that he seems to be on with CM Punk.
The Hardys are going to be showing up on NXT, it looks like, as your TNA tag team champions. It looks like, between them and Moose, that the TNA open forbidden door is wide open and not so forbidden-y.
Boy, can't wait to see Matt Hardy.
Fraxium versus the Hardys. Are you down for that?
I am intrigued by what can Fraxium get out of the Hardys.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because
I'm sure they've talked a good game of, yay, we still got it. We can do all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, but the Hardys stink now.
Yes, they do.
Beyond Jeff Hardy's, moral reprobate status, like they stink. I was showing my former roommate a compilation of Jeff Hardy potatoing people with swanton bombs because he still had in his head the Jeff Hardy of 10, 15 years ago. And I'm like, no. He's not that guy. This is not 2010. This is 2025. Let me show you what he's looked like in the ring the last couple of years. And just like watching this sack of potatoes dropping onto human beings and crushing rib cages and cores.
Our Lady Peace on a reunion tour, and they're playing Whatever, the theme song for Chris Benoit. They haven't played that even since before the murder-suicide, but they say they're taking it back as there's a good mental health message in there, and during their show, they put up a mental health crisis hotline thing.
I got no problem with this.
I got no problem with it,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there is
I don't think anybody has a problem with it, to be honest with you.
I am certain there are people who are going, well, this is a piece of art that is associated with Chris Benoit. Ipso facto, you bringing it up is triggering somebody and making them think about Chris Benoit.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I would argue that this artist was commissioned to make a piece of art. They wrote a piece of art. They weren't thinking about Chris Benoit when they did it. The song itself is not intrinsically about Chris Benoit, and it's certainly not like a song that's like, Chris Benoit, he's a really great guy. Chris Benoit, he's a swell little guy. Chris Benoit, I like to watch him fight. Chris Benoit, fight all night. Like, it's not, like, that's not the song.
No, but
I would argue you can't take that one back.
Do you remember when Edge and Christian put words originally to the Chris Benoit theme? Here comes Chris Benoit, and he's really mad. Here comes Chris Benoit, and he's really angry.
Yeah, I think, it's a piece of art it's like a lot of this stuff from the mid-aughts, right? WWE is buying songs from known bands and using them, and I don't think those known bands are burdened certainly with all the malfeasances of all of the writers. I mean, I would never want to see a band like Peroxygen get burdened with the actions of Jeff Hardy.
Grand Hamada passed away.
Peroxygen is Jeff Hardy's band, Jeff.
Thank you. I know. I don't care about Jeff Hardy's band. I really don't.
The joke, whatever.
I know.
I hate you sometimes.
That I know sold a joke I wouldn't get normally.
You know what? All of a sudden, those people on the message board, the wretched things they say about you, feel salient and well tailored.
Oh no, you'll make it up to me eventually.
I'm certain I will.
I know you will. Grant Hamada passing away. Legendary. See, to me, I don't know enough about Grant Hamada. I know he trained a lot of people. Kind of a mix, kind of melded like lucha and Japanese styles. I know his daughter Ayako Hamada. I was a big fan of hers. But I just wanted to mention in passing that he passed away because he's legendary. It's just I never got a chance to watch all that much of him. Any thoughts, or should we move on?
Yeah, I know him from the video games. I know him from VPW too, and I know his match style and stuff well enough to. Yeah, he's one of these Japanese wrestlers who was like a world traveler and studied around the globe and really sort of combined lucha and Japanese wrestling in its first kind of early successful formation.
Yeah.
Like we're going to talk about Ultimo Dragon here when we get into Vader Club later on. And I mean, Gran Hamada and Ultimo Dragon, I view these guys as really important history of wrestling figures. I mean,
yes.
Ultimo Dragon's just a dope wrestler. Like, if you don't like an Ultimo Dragon match, you probably don't like wrestling. But I'm being completely honest. Like,
I know
he does everything. So if you can't get into his matches, I don't know what wrestling's got for you. Other than like The Rock, I guess, or like Hogan. But like these really, really big bombastic characters. But I think that, a guy like Hamada is an important transitional figure, and that synthesizing of the styles, very watchable. You know what I mean? Yeah, very, very watchable, and I think that's important.
And there's a lot of now Japanese wrestlers who have come over to do their excursion in Mexico and learn those styles. I believe Okada is one of those. Sonata, obviously. Others. Naito, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're going to end with this one. WWE Hall of Fame announcing their second inductee, Michelle McCool, Undertaker's wife, which is very interesting because she has been publicly begging that if you put me in the Hall of Fame, I want to go in with as part of Lay Cool because that was the most fun I had doing wrestling. Nope, putting her in solo. Which I just like, why don't we just adhere to people's wishes occasionally? If Triple H doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame, don't put him in the Hall of Fame. If Michelle McCool wants to go with her old tag team partner, I get that you don't find that the tag team partner is we don't need to put Layla in the Hall of Fame because she won't make Undertaker happy.
I
like Lay Cool.
I like Layla too, and I
think
that this begs an interesting question of Layla's departure from the company, which I think at the time was, sort of seen as like an aging out sort of thing or whatever, but perhaps there was some other stuff backstage that we don't know about.
She might be one of those unnamed.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like I could totally see Vince McMahon in particular being enamored with Layla.
Also, her exit is one of the most memorable to me because it was that loser must retire match when they were sharing the Divas belt, and it was like one of those things where afterwards they're both crying, and then they brought out Karma, who didn't last very long in the company, to destroy people. And it was just all. I believe she also had said, hey, look, I'd be available for a Rumble if you guys want me back. And they never called her for one of those.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. Circle that one. That's interesting to me.
Now to the lazy river of wrestling criticism, whatever we had time for, whatever we could see. And there was a lot of wrestling this week. We taped last week as NXT Vengeance was going on, and right before Grand Slam Australia, I did get a chance to finish Vengeance. I was disappointed in the women's four-way, and it was on Bailey. I mean, I think she was jet-lagged from all the traveling. As much as I praised her last week for her schedule, I think the schedule caught up to her in that match. But Grand Slam Australia was really the focus I wanted to get into, because a lot was made that Turner was going to put this on live right after the NBA All-Star festivities, and it drew a bit of a number. It got like 500,000, I believe, for the Collision, average, because, you had 2.5 million watching at the beginning, and then it just dropped like 75% by the end. You expect that sometimes, but it kind of...
Not if you have good synergy with the freaking network that you're on.
That's true too. They went to the commentators like 3 times before they cut over to Grand Slam. But I also think the strategy here was wrong, but it gives insight into what Tony Khan thinks matters. And to me, if I'm trying to hold the audience for pro wrestling, at least in a bar or something like that, I would have put that Big Bill Hobbs match street fight on first, or I would have put it on this show, and I would have opened with it, and just 2 big dudes beating the crap out of each other, just going around hitting each other with plunder. I think that would have held more of an audience. Now, that said, it's obvious that what Tony wanted to do was, let's showcase our best wrestlers. Okay, if that's your strategy, then the first thing I need to be seeing on my TV is either all 4 guys in the ring, Kenny Omega, and or Will Ospreay. But nope, it opens, and the first entrance you're seeing is the Don Callis family with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita, and Fletcher's wearing those weird sunglasses, and it takes about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we get a long drawn-out Ospreay entrance a la WWE, and the Kenny Omega new entrance with the weird, slow, soft music that eventually gets in with like the feathers and stuff like that. But those 2 came out second, and we don't even get to the match until 7 or 8 minutes into the show. And I'm just like, you have a chance here to make an impression on a lot of new eyeballs. And if your strategy is we're going to show them our stars, then much like WWE and its 20-minute talking segments, start with John Cena coming out to the ring and doing his shtick. Anything to say about that?
I mean, I think it's a question of, are we showing off a brand or are we showing off stars?
And we were showing off the brand here.
Yeah, and then when you get into the actual stars of this company, it's, okay, you have Ospreay and Omega, but they seem to be trapped in a mid-card feud. Then, I don't know, man. I think Fletcher and Takeshita are good wrestlers. They are not main event star figures to me in terms of, occupying a television screen. Neither one of them have star power like that. They have nice matches. And so,
and that's what Tony wants. That's what Tony thinks brings him to the dance, is good matches. And I'll give you an anecdote that I heard on an Observer Radio. I forget if it was this week or last week. I think it was last week. But, Tony will sometimes reach out to people to ask about things, and it's like I believe Dave was recounting a phone call he had once. I don't know if it was recent or not, but there's some issues in the booking, here, and here that you kind of, shore up some of this, et cetera, et cetera. And Tony kind of goes, oh, well, thanks, Dave. What did you think of the matches? And I think and that now lives rent-free in my head. That it's like, I'm going to dismiss the television building block issues and just ask you, what do you think of the bangers I put on there? And it's like, that is so perfect. Like, don't get me wrong, the tag match, it pleased the people who like to do star ratings. It did. I think it got like 4/4. I think it was 4 or 4.5. It was a
Well, that's
indie.
exciting.
It was an indie. I mean, I was personally, I tuned out a bit because I was thinking about that other stuff at the top of the show. But I mean, it was an indie style, do a lot of flippy doos type of match, and I get that it's the style today. I'm an old man yelling at a cloud.
No, this gets into a deeper rating to me of star ratings, which is now star ratings are being done divorced from the overall story. And okay, star ratings to me used to be you were giving a rating to a scene in a story, right? Like this is the climax to Act 4. And now we are no longer actually thinking about the story. We're just giving a star rating to action, like are the police cars flipping over? Rather than actually thinking about, is there a story like the Blues Brothers attached to the police cars flipping over that makes the police cars flipping over mean something?
To me, it's judging gymnastics, not literally, but, or ice skating. You're watching, do they have was it technically, they have the scores for technical prowess or whatever, and that's part of it type of a thing. Let me get some more, random thoughts here. I thought they did they did what should have been the Harley Cameron story for Buddy Matthews on here. They brought the puppet in for the match. I thought Mercedes and Harley had a good match, but I just couldn't get past Harley using the puppet at some point. And she didn't get enough of she could win this type of feeling in the match for me to really get into it. They did that with Buddy against Okada, which I think is a waste. Given, Buddy's a good wrestler, but he's never going to light your world on fire with a promo to get to
Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega thing. You have Okada, Will Ospreay, and Kenny Omega, your stars, embroiled in mid-card feuds. I like Buddy. I think Buddy's good. I like Kyle Fletcher.
He's a tag team wrestler, Buddy.
I like Konosuke Takeshita, but these are guys who have matches with better guys.
Yes, they have good matches.
They're the guys who have matches with your stars.
Yes.
On the way to the pay-per-view for when the stars face the other stars. These are the good TV matches. Going back to Harley Cameron real quickly, it's like this is why does story matter? It's kind of picking up on my star rating thing. It's like, okay, Harley Cameron's character is that she's a little wacky, zany, and that she's getting under Mercedes Moné's skin by being peppy, optimistic, likable. People like her wacky, zany thing, and it kind of is getting under Moné's skin. This match should have been a tremendous vehicle, especially if Cameron's going to lose, which, is going to be the conclusion, for her to successfully get under Mercedes Moné's skin numerous times throughout the match, almost to the point of Moné making a mistake and losing the belt. And really, even at the end of the match, Moné should be just kind of annoyed at how close Cameron got and everything. This is how you get Cameron over in the loss. The way they did this doesn't do that.
Yeah, a point I made on my other show about what I was saying about how you hook in viewers. You're not a hockey fan, I don't think, Chris, but during the Four Nations Cup,
I enjoy Wayne Gretzky's game on the N64 with the punching.
I now realize I have to bring everything into your video game fandom for you to know, but USA Hockey versus Canada, first 6 seconds, there were 3 fights in their first match, and it got a monster rating. And it's like, yes, this is how you hook it. I don't know who booked this. I know it was because of the booing of the national anthem, which is fine, but it was pure pro wrestling. And it's like, yes, the first people ever watch hockey, all they want to see is goals and fights, and they're hoping to see a fight. Do that with wrestling, and you'll hook more wrestling fans. But no, we're going to have a good, technically sound 4-star banger for you newbies to just be absolutely dulled by because there's no emotion in it whatsoever.
I'm not gonna lie. If they had the pieces right now to make it work, a USA versus Canada feud in this current climate would be a hoot.
Oh, I'd love it. Oh,
Right? I
Ed,
know.
hold on. No, you haven't because you have Edge or Cope, Christian, Kenny Omega.
Oh,
There's your team, Canada.
They could have
MJF.
they could have
representing
so
America.
much. They
Come
could have
on.
so much fun telling us what pricks we are. They would enjoy it. God, right? Like that actually would be a total hoot right now on this show. It would be
I had
such
never.
an improvement over the Death Rider stuff.
That is such a fantastic idea. And then you have MJF like representing the evil capitalism of America.
Like, yeah.
But we have to root for him because we're patriotic. You get Mox in there.
You could actually have like a cleavage between Team America where you have like the heel Americans and
Yes.
the good.
We have
like,
neocons and we have border hawks and just
again, I'm not saying get like hella political about it.
No.
I certainly don't want to hear about the dude with the bad hair on the show. I'm just saying you can have a lot of fun with USA versus Canada right now.
And then you go do shows in Canada.
Yeah.
And you flip
and
the
everyone
script.
flips. Yes. That's fun.
God, that's a phenomenal idea, Chris, and I'm shocked nobody has thought about it in wrestling commentary yet. So take your victory lap while giving me your first Lazy River point.
Oh boy. NXT just feels like it remains in this meandering holding pattern with everyone who's holding the belts right now on the show. I think I will say this. I'm going to pick up on a specific with Ricky Saints. Ricky seems like he is already settling into talking on the camera and being more natural and comfortable. Like he's getting that WWE charisma smoothing over thing that they have managed to do with a number of different talents. I mean, they've taken lesser speakers like a Brian Pillman Jr. and made them passable. And I think they're going to take someone like Ricky Saints or Ricky Starks, who was passable, and get him to the next level eventually.
Do you? Okay, because I had a kind of a demerit on his performance on Tuesday, which was the and this needed a retake. I think this was done live, like the whole delivery of this place is crazy. You need to put a little bit more stank on that there, Ricky, because that came off as wooden to me quite a bit.
I'm not going to lie. That's bad. You know, I can't lay this on the actor entirely because he has to rise above really bad
material.
Like that's looking at the camera going like, wow, this place is nuts, Jeff.
Continue your point if you have.
No, I think once he settles in, he actually could be a really nice stabilizing force beyond Obafemi, because this Obafemi thing, I don't think he's going to work as a big baby face. You know, you got the Moose encounter. That'll be fun for a meat versus meat thing.
Yes.
But he has to move back to being a heel in relatively short order, being a dominant champion. And I think the solid trajectory for the main title picture is Ricky beating Oba as the underdog.
I think Starks is in charge of these four guys.
Interesting.
That is how I think they're bringing him in. I think he's a dishonest babyface right now. And I think he's I think he's the guy running the show for the young guys. I do. I think that'd be a very interesting story to play. Him as the head of a stable.
That would be interesting. Although I will definitely say NXT also has too many stables at this point.
I kind of agree.
Yeah, I don't think that...
Or at least stables that aren't interesting.
Right. You get a lot of boring... No Quarter Catch Crew is boring. They just have never had any real personality that's been cemented.
I like Andre Chase. I don't like this new version of Chase U all that much.
I don't either. And it's like annoying because it's like, isn't he congressionally obligated to dismantle Chase U? So like the whole idea of like get the band back together not actually contractually allowable.
On week 2, after they started teasing it again, and it's like,
Right.
oh, God, why did you break this up? It was a unit that was working, for God's sake.
Right, and it certainly works better than D'Angelo's Mafia, which really struggles anytime he's not in the scene. And it's not like D'Angelo's just he is a good character. He does fill out a screen well. When he is not in there and you just have the 3 henchies, they have no flavor whatsoever. Luca Crucifino is a completely flavorless character. It's just like, well, he's a lawyer, but like they could say he's the cook. You know what I mean? They could say he's the auto mechanic.
He's the driver. And
he
then
could be anybody. Yes, he doesn't do anything that distinguishes him, and even more so is Stax.
Yes.
Whose only job is to be like, I'm going to go get him, boss, and then he goes and loses.
Your Italian stereotype accent is so good. Okay, here we go. Jeff Hawkins talks to wrestling listeners, podcast listeners, about beta male energy and how it ruins some of your favorite professional wrestlers. Because there was an example on NXT and an example on AEW that just drove me insane. The more high profile being on AEW, so I'll save that for second. Ashanti the Adonis is watching 3 women beat up his girlfriend. I'm trying to remember her name. I can't. The girl with the sword.
Carmen Petrovich.
Carmen Petrovich
is her name.
Thank you.
And yes, this was so heinously cringe.
And instead of, because we can't have physicality between men and women, even though it's a fighting sport, and even though in a street fight situation, if my girlfriend was getting beat up and 3 women are on there, I would shove a few off of them to try and get her out of the fight. No, he's calling for help through a commercial break, begging for someone to come save his girlfriend. If these 2 don't break up on Tuesday, what are we even doing here? But the more egregious example, we started AEW Dynamite this week with a 20-minute talking segment straight out of Stanford between MJF and Hangman Page. Hangman, once again, they are now saying on air the emotional millennial cowboy or whatever it is.
Cowboy, I forget the fucking.
But the conversation is this: MJF is upset that people in the crowd don't love him after 5 years, and Hangman's shtick is last week or 2 weeks ago they asked him, "Do you regret what you did to Chris Daniels?" And he goes, "No." This week, it's all about how, Christopher Daniels was my mentor.
I'd give him my back and my neck if I could give it to him, but I can't.
He went out on his shield. Yeah, you put him there, you jerk.
I know. He's saying all this stuff like, oh, it's so great. You were torturing him.
Yes, you were torturing
the guy. It was
a Texas death match. All right, it wasn't just a match where it was a retirement stip. It was a Texas death match where you went in there to beat the ever-living crap out of, and now 2 weeks after you said, I don't regret it.
He's a hero and a mentor.
He's a hero. He's done so much for this business, and I wish he were still in this business. Well, then why'd you put him out of it, you jerk? God, I'm watching this.
Where's MJF just saying all of this stuff, right?
Yes, because he should be the tellers of truth here, but instead it's the office likes you.
Well, and I hate this stuff too because MJF has gone out of his way on numerous occasions to hate the fans. So
yes,
he does not. It's not consistent for him to wish they all loved him all of a sudden some week, like.
Why are these wrestlers so damn needy? I don't want to watch the emotional. I want to watch kick-ass alphas going for money, being jacked up dudes and beating people up and talking smack about it. That is wrestling to me. This stuff is for women.
I'm gonna circle back to the shot to the Adonis thing because, like, WWE, I get it. I get the intergender guidelines or whatever, you got to update these codes, because when you watch, if they go back and rewatch the blocking of this just looks absolutely atrocious.
He doesn't need to punch him. He can just get in there and take.
He can put his
shots.
body over
Yes.
her, right? He is larger than her, so he can lay on top of her and take the kicks from the women. He doesn't even have to fight back. He just has to protect Carmen. He just has to grab her and get her out of there. You can even, if you want, have the women attack him and give Carmen a reason to rally and fight back for her man. There's like any number of options where you don't put the Ashanti, the Adonis character in a point where it's not even that I don't like him anymore. I have no interest in seeing this character do anything at all ever again.
He's a coward. He's an absolute coward. And now don't want to see him on screen. I don't want to see him in a relationship. I don't even want to see him wrestle necessarily, because I'm so turned off by the fact that he would just let someone beat up his girlfriend.
I find that like repellent. Yes, it's like, it doesn't, to your point, doesn't matter who it is who's beating up your girlfriend, whether they're men, women, or somewhere else on the gender spectrum. The idea that you would just stand by and watch that and like not do anything and go like, Jesus, oh, come on, no, stop.
Like, come on, this isn't fair.
Nah. Like, come on, dude.
You know,
if you're that, if someone's ruining your best suit, you don't do that if someone's beating up your girlfriend.
I have a thought of how to redeem this. I don't know how it plays, because it feels a little bit too Ricochet-like. But you make him a coward, and he runs away and becomes just an absolute jerk heel. He's a cowardly wrestler. He's basically the Miz.
See, like, that's the thing, is I don't even think that this is the.
I don't think it would work. I don't think
it doesn't lead to an interesting character. No. I can't zig this zag.
I was trying and I can't do it.
No,
right.
I can't make him interesting now. So it's like, to your point, like, yeah, he's repellent. I find him as a moral character, like basically.
They're going to try to redeem him. They're going to put him with Jada Parker or something.
This is a writing exercise I can't say for you, and I like to think of myself as someone who's got a creative mind for wrestling storytelling. I can't help you with this one.
Yeah, that's God. They have banned themselves into a corner on this one. I don't know what to do.
I mean, this was a storyline that was already struggling, and I think the only thing that could have made it work is the idea that, despite our first impressions that Ashanti is disingenuous and he's kind of playing Carmen, that actually the guy really does love her. Like, and like is willing to always go the extra mile for that would be the only thing that could have sort of saved this initially. And they have now duffed this a couple of weeks in a row. He's been standing by and watching her just get pummeled.
Just stupid.
It makes her look really bad too.
Yes.
I
mean, she was going to be up 3-on-1. I mean,
no, but like, I mean, it makes her look bad that she's not calling out.
Well, let's give them Tuesday. Let's give them Tuesday to have her break up with him.
Yeah.
Before we say, I'm going to stand by my cowardly man. No, screw you. You have a sword. You're fine. I always say that every time she comes to the ring. Like, I like her kicks. She has some good karate stuff in there. Some of the wrestling is a little, we'll see how it does in the thing, but I always goes, she has a sword. She's bringing a sword to the ring. I know you
right. You should at least expect her to have some sort of kendo stick or something to. I mean, if anything, to me, especially with her, right? She's a small package. And she does know karate and stuff. I think what we need to see out of her, especially presentation wise, is that when you corner her, she's like the small guy in the karate movie who all of a sudden goes insane.
Yes.
And like can absolutely just annihilate people with speed and precision. And Fatal Attraction would actually be a fine group for her to demo that ability on, where these are three women who are all larger than her, and you just watch Petrovich demolish Nyx with kicks, and then put one of the other two in some sort of submission hold or something like that. And I mean, that was another problem with last week. Last week she tapped out. I thought that didn't help her either. I mean, they're really duffing it with both of them. And while I don't see a ton with Ashante, I think you and I both sort of have seen something with Carmen Petrovich, and they just keep messing it up week after week after week.
Your turn, sir.
Okay. So, man, taking this, I guess to Dynamite, Prince Nana and Ricochet also had this meandering, bloodless dialogue. Like, you can't get me to believe that this jacket has 30 years worth of history. I'm just not there with it.
On screen, I think you're correct. And I also, so many people were complaining about the CM Punk Drew McIntyre bracelet feud. And now we have the very same thing in AEW. But, this is better because it's Jimmy Rave's jacket, et cetera, et cetera. If this does not end with Ricochet using his scissors to tear up the jacket, I don't even know what we're doing here.
I don't either. I mean, but I also just don't. Nana is not a great sympathetic figure.
Right.
He isn't. Yeah, he's just not. He doesn't. You can't spin the embassy into this prestigious, honorific, like, you're not gonna get me there. It's like, trying to take like the Heenan family and act like, through the years a pantheon of greats have come through the Heenan family to try to achieve greatness. Like, that's not the story. Or the Dungeon of Doom, through the years so many greats like Meng and also the Barbarian have come through.
The Dungeon of Doom is here to fight for WCW's honor.
Right,
against the NWO,
which they did, by the way.
That's why I'm doing it.
I know. I'm saying that for the listeners. Yeah, like you just can't get me there.
Right.
And so I have a very hard time getting there with Nana. I think he would be okay as a, he gets beaten up by Ricochet sort of thing. But this, like, please, man, I'm just begging you, man to man, give me the jacket back. Like, it only matters if I care about Nana on this level where it makes me sad to see him sad.
But if he's sad, he doesn't do the happy dance.
Right.
It's such it's a misstep to me.
Yeah.
Also a misstep. I'm going to jump to Raw. How have we not? I mean, I think the target is Roxanne Perez and Bayley for Mania. And I think that's why we're putting her in the Elimination Chamber. But I would have never brought her up to the main roster as a heel. I really wouldn't have. I would have. And then
they seem confused in the presentation too.
Well, they have to be, because who is she fighting to get into the Elimination Chamber? Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day.
Right.
And it's heel on heel with cheating heel versus cheating heel. And nobody really know on the main roster fandom really knows Roxanne Perez all that much. So they're not gonna. So they think they're supposed to cheer for her, but she's doing everything heelish because they know Bayley's been calling her out over and over and over again. It's another one of those things where I was like, I get if you're gonna do a sports presentation, do it, and then but also somehow build some animus between the two heels so that you can have a quote-unquote good guy and a bad guy so the audience knows who to root for and who not to root for. But I
agree with all of this, and I would actually go one step further and say Roxanne actually makes a lot of sense as a new addition to the Judgment Day, so I definitely wouldn't have her clashing with Judgment Day members. I think she'd fit right in with Liv and Raquel and Dominic as a new figure for all of them to kind of play off of.
I think the new member is going to be Aleister Black.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Yeah.
going to be as productive.
I don't either. Actually, Judgment Day as a women's stable would be a women's led stable would be
Right.
something, different at least.
And then they're constantly berating Finn, Carlito, and JD for not getting the job, and Dominic for not getting the job.
not getting the job done. Yeah, because we've seen scenes of that occasionally until Finn comes out and plays alpha.
Yeah. But it would actually be very funny to watch the four men all struggle to prove competency on a week-to-week basis and be constantly harangued by the women.
I'm just gonna add a little coda on this as well because I'm not gonna spend too much time on Raw, but
Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, Kota Ibushi. He goes way too long. We have to go back to the middle of the piece and do
he goes back to the spots that he was doing in the middle of the match.
He goes back and repeat. That's only for music fans, and if you don't get that, look it up. I like these New Day promos. Oh, as harsh truth tellers, where they're albeit in a heel way, and over the top in terms of like calling Big E a lazy ass, kind of over the top. But I love when they accused Rey Mysterio of sucking the life out of every fresh-faced luchador who walks through the door in WWE. I'm like, yes, they're basically giving criticisms of the company through this promo. I was like, yes, look what they've done with Penta already, who is fighting Pete Dunne for the third time, I think, since he's debuted.
No, Ray's like the best and worst thing in a way that's ever happened for luchas and pro wrestling, because once WWE got Ray, they could not envision masked wrestlers as anything other than comparisons to Rey Mysterio.
Yes, and everything's Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero.
Those are the only two templates they have to understand wrestlers. One has a mask, and he's from Mexico, and another one doesn't have a mask.
And neither are from Mexico, if you think about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do you have anything else?
One's billed as being from New Mexico. The other one's billed as being from El Paso.
If you have nothing else, it's a good segue into another guy with a mask.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to take a look real quickly.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I thought main event on Dynamite was super ho-hum. Roderick Strong,
God, yes,
is just a guy for me at this point.
That promo following. By the way, following the first segment, then we get the wacky misadventures of the Undisputed Kingdom, and it's time for Kyle O'Reilly to try and show personality again. Oh, dear God.
These three men don't understand personality. They understand, like, tropish character thing. Like, in Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Yes.
Where they have that game where every character gets, like, one piece of paper and it defines them. Like, you're an accountant who's constipated.
Yes.
Like, that's how they understand characterization. Like, Roderick Strong, you scream everyone's first name. That's on his piece of paper. Kyle O'Reilly, you're the guy who's pushing 40, who still wants to come off as the fellow kids. Adam Cole, you're the guy who thinks, who thinks he's the leader, but actually doesn't really have the leadership qualities that he thinks he has. But like, these are just like these very loose, like, tropes of characterizations rather than actual characterizations. And then Orange Cassidy, for his part, also now feels
after 6 weeks, and they don't do anything to hype him.
Treading water.
And not only that, part of this absolutely frustrating to me way that they've presented this, how we're going to get to a is it Okada or a Takeshita Omega match, because it's not it was a number one contenders match to then face Takeshita to see who will then face Kenny Omega, instead of being a challenge for Kenny Omega to get through these other guys to then make it to the champion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like the prize is you get to wrestle Kenny Omega. The prize isn't the title. That's the second step in this whole thing. The grand prize is you get to have a critically acclaimed match that will be talked about on Wrestling Observer Radio the next day. Congratulations.
And then where do the Death Riders fit into this whole confusing Rube Goldberg machine of a title picture? And how do they feel about it? It makes AEW for me every week yeah, but how are the matches sort of show, because
it is.
The universe is non-existent, and if I'm grading this show on the universe week over week, honestly, my grade keeps dropping because things keep making less and less sense. You have this dominant heel faction that wanted to take over AEW because they were convinced that it was a bunch of young squishes and people becoming ninnies, and then they needed to soften up all these ninnies. And then you have Adam Page out there
and MJF
both of them crying emotionally. You got Prince Nana weeping about a jacket, and Ricochet won't give back to it. This show is littered with the ninnies that the world champion of the company
says he wants to get rid of.
And wants to do something about. Yeah, but how are the matches? Yeah, but how is the narrative? It's shit.
Yes, they should be killing all these guys. And then that reminds me of one other thing on Dynamite that it's a decent idea, but why would you do it? And that's the Megan Bayne Chris Statlander match. That is a match that you build and then you debut on a pay-per-view.
Why is Megan Bayne here?
Why? Because she's tall and big.
Right, I know, but like, what's her goal?
I know they've said nothing.
There's nothing. She's on. I'm like, oh, it's a very tan Charlotte.
She's Camille Part 2.
Yeah, this is just a big, heavy being presented as a monster. She seems talented. I got nothing bad to say about her.
I liked her. I liked her offense in this. I'm just wondering why we're wasting this, and then to have that ridiculous, just to bring back in Penelope Ford and Thunder Rosa, who doesn't know how to use a chair all of a sudden.
All right, is that man? Is that what was happening there? Like that whole, that looked bad.
This was brought up to Brian Alvarez, who asked around, and they said it would have been better if we had had a production meeting and gone through the entire segment so that we know how to get to where we wanted to get to. But this was to set up a tag match, and unfortunately what happened was everybody got kind of lost in what to do with Thunder Rosa in the chair. So it's one of those things. I was like, why are you even wasting Megan Bayne and Chris Statlander's first match on a Dynamite where you're just going to do a screw job finish then? You could have gotten over Megan Bayne big with a win and then you put her on to Willow or something. Or you could have just kept on the whole thing where both women are these giant, powerful women who are destroying people, and then eventually they have to come to a head, but they keep staring each other down backstage. I'd have been cool with that too. But now you're right. We need a motive for Megan Bayne. Why is she here?
Yeah, why is she here? What's her point? There's just a lot of stuff where it's like, why is anybody doing anything?
But your call out of the Death Rider thing is perfect because we have all these. I want to be loved by the fans. I just want to have a good match.
Hate.
Yes.
Including Omega, right down to Omega's maudlin crying. Oh, I don't know. Like Moxley should hate this.
Moxley should hate everybody in the company, literally.
Yes. He should be sick of Omega's maudlin. I don't know if I can. Well, if he can't do it anymore, go home. How about that, Kenny? Like that should be his response to that. Copeland, I'm gonna retire you. MJF, you're a spoiled little boy with hair plugs who can't get over being a little brat.
The patriarchy. Kill them. Maybe he likes the Ops because all they do is kick ass. Maybe he likes them a little bit, so he doesn't go after them as much because he and Joe kind of have a look, and it's like, okay, it's that scene from Half Baked. F you, you're cool.
Looks at the Hurt Business, doesn't really have a problem with them, looks forward, like, we'll fight with you in the future. But kind of like respect, but that stuff goes a long way to getting me to care about any of these matches. So it's like, how is the match? I mean, theoretically, could Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong have an interesting match? Yeah. But if you don't give a story to any of it, it doesn't mean anything. And I think, I'm beating up a lot on Dynamite this week just because it's glaring at me. But NXT's got these same problems too.
Oh,
It's
NXT is just melodrama as opposed to
and meandering too. It's like, okay, like you got the Sol Ruca Zarya thing. Oh, can they get along? Whatever. Then you got like Ethan Page is great, and now he's just meandering with this Javon Evans thing, and Javon Evans continues to just be a charisma vacuum.
Kalani Jordan.
Kalani Jordan, kind of treading water.
Treading water. Yeah.
Can't really commit to it. And then the Sean Spears faction. Like, what do we do? It's boring. As I said, there's a ton of factions on this show, and they don't do anything, or they're boring, if you told me we're building to a factional warfare match, I'd hate it. Like, I don't want to see Sean Spears versus the D'Angelo Mafia versus the No Quarter Catch Crew versus, I feel like there's one other faction in here. But I wouldn't want to see those three factions
out the mud.
OTO, right, yeah. I don't want to see these guys all square off, the new Ricky Starks faction.
Yeah,
if you had a 4-way dance between those 4 teams, I would change the channel.
It's to me on NXT. Okay, you have these 4 guys. The thing you should be doing is going, okay, we know that it's what's the name of the bookworm?
Oh, not Zion. What is his name? Something Hendry?
No, that's Joe Hendry.
not Joe Hendry.
Let's see. Bookworm, NXT.
Nerdist Ferguson.
Dion Lennox. We know that Dion Lennox, who he is, because he's been on TV, he kind of got short shrifted against Obafemi a little bit, etc. Why do we not have our backstage reporters going into this and Dion having to explain himself and what he's doing, et cetera? So instead we just kind of have these the Nexus Part 2 where he's brought a bunch of young guys and stuff. We should be treating this as if it's real and trying to and having Sarah Schreiber try to get to the bottom of this. And instead it's just, we just kind of let it happen type of a thing. But hopefully Ricky is put in charge of this. Talk to me about Slamboree 98 and Ultimo Dragon and Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Ultimo Dragon. Even when Ultimo Dragon's having a kind of off match and is slightly sloppy, he's still excellent. This match is not his best technical execution, but him and Guerrero have outstanding chemistry throughout this match. And the pace of this match stays at this very steady, up-tempo pace without being a no-sell-a-thon. There's plenty of selling along the way. But Dragon Guerrero are having this great match, and these absolutely troglodytic losers in the Slamboree house are, I don't know, staring at a fat man with his shirt off or something. I'm not sure what's happening in the background.
We are in full on NWO has taken over this company and its fandom type of a show, because
I hate late 90s culture more and more as time goes on.
Because it's one of those things where you watch those early 95 to 97 Nitros, that first hour, and it's popping the ex-WCW fans. They're getting over it. And instead, now we're just into, these small guys are small, and we're waiting for our big stars from WWF to come in and do something, and we're Sting and all that other stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, people were into cruiserweight wrestling in 96, 97, and
they started feeding them to guys.
Right, and then they just, the NWO guys even resented that as an additional leg of the WCW brand and just wanted to be WCW, which they completely neutered, versus NWO. And the crowd can't get checked in to this Eddie Guerrero and Ultimo Dragon match, which as I said, is a good match. Dragon does a bunch of great offense in this, and he doesn't even go through the entirety of his moveset. Because I mean, like, we don't see the running Liger bomb. There's a number of things he doesn't do. We don't see the Dragonsteiner.
No.
Yeah, and even then, he's the Asai moonsaults that he does. He does several of those. Those all look excellent. He almost hits. He doesn't quite stick the landing on this, but the spot where he's like reversing a back body drop and he tries to get into a dragon sleeper, the ambition on that was sick. And even when he misses that spot, it doesn't look atrocious.
This match is bogged down by the storyline with Chavo Guerrero Jr. and his freedom, and also by the commentary. Shivani and Heenan are just blowing off Mike Tenay. And it really does detract from the match, unfortunately, for me. I don't know about how you handled it, but I'm watching this.
I as I said, I viewed this match very much as two all-time great wrestlers having a match and having a good match while resisting bad commentary and resisting bad audience. They were getting no help from anyone.
Yeah. Anything else to say about it?
No, I thought it was very entertaining. I don't love the Chavo. I think the Chavo turn, Chavo for his part just does a garbage job.
Yes.
Selling conflict, being conflicted.
He's cheering on Eddie while they're walking to the ring. And it's supposed to be for his freedom.
It's for his freedom.
I just don't. It's like.
And this is also an idiotic story.
It's a stupid story. And this is what they would do with the luchadors and just the cruiserweights in general. It's like, well, you know what we need? We need more sports entertainment stories for these guys because like, God knows, Ultimo Dragon and his 8 or 9 belts isn't enough.
And the
story.
Right, and going back to what we were saying with Petrovic, the idea you could very credibly present Dragon as being able to take out 3 or 4 bigger guys than him when he's really locked in, because he moved so well. He had such a diversity in offense, and his kind of standard pace was so quick that I could theoretically see Dragon taking out 3 NWO B team members like a Vincent Scott Norton.
Oh yeah,
right. Like that would be the thing you would do to get this guy over. I mean, as I said to you, I think he is Dragon to me is one of the all-time underrated wrestlers and underutilized wrestlers, because though I don't think he could have been like the main event draw of WWF or WCW in the 90s or anything like that, I think he could have very credibly been in your upper mid-card mix, and kind of at the same tier as Rey Mysterio in terms of like an international talent that fans were really into and sold a ton of merchandise. I think all the pieces of the puzzle were there.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think just if they had a 1988 or 1987 sensibility in terms of, I think the whole Nitro era, Attitude era, Monday Night War thing, I think it ruined a lot of what brought WCW to the dance, and it ended up turning off a lot of the fans who they like their wrestling and they don't mind the high spots and the athleticism and stuff like that. But you kind of have to give everybody a little bit of, those straight promo type of thing of what, hey, Ultimo Dragon's a multi-millionaire because he has 9 different belts he's bringing with him. And that also means he's also possibly the best wrestler in the world and he should be challenging a Flair type or something like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'd like to see, I think about the WCW roster and all the people Dragon didn't really have great matches with or didn't have a chance to have, extended match with. Does he have a match with Savage? Sure, but it's like 5 minutes and it's nothing. There's just a bunch of these guys where he could have had a really cool feud. He could have had a cool feud with Diamond Dallas Page. When Page was U.S. champion, Dragon with his 9 belts could have been chasing after DDP and basically dispatching all challengers and been kind of perpetuating the hunt of DDP with his hurt ribs. So yeah, there's a size differential thing.
Yeah, I mean, but you can make it work for you, like ECW did with the shooter Dean Malenko, just made him an absolute I mean, he could never pro or anything, but you bring him into WCW as either the Iceman or the shooter. You make him the mercenary who's getting bought off by somebody or whatever to put out some of these cruiserweights or something like that, and eventually he gets paid to go after a guy who's on your heavyweight level or something like that, and he shows a little bit of competency in being able to do that. It's
But no, I think Dragon could have carried a lot of.
Dragon could have, yeah.
Yeah. No, I just there's a lot of matches.
The Sonny
you know,
Ono
but-
crap just bogged him down.
Yep. But he could have done it in the same way that I think, like Eddie obviously became a world champion. I think Dragon could have been on that sub-main event level on a reliable basis, having really good matches and sometimes the best matches on the show far more often than he was ever given the opportunity to. And at times where he was given bigger profiles in WCW, he always delivered.
He needed a promo guy, though, to get to that level, I think.
I think so. But also, I mean, Ray was doing it without many promos.
That's true, too.
Fans, I obviously think they're troglodytes, but I'll give them some credit. Like, they got into, like, Ray and Psychosis and a bunch of other wrestlers, but especially Ray. And Ray was saying nothing.
Yeah, they just needed to take the popularity and allow them to grow, and they hit a ceiling, and it was over for them.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm in the tag team sphere right now. I've been watching a lot of Gordy and Hansen and the Fantastics and the British Bulldogs in Japan, so I may be going that route. I will let people know on the Shake Them Ropes account, and I'll retweet on my own account at CrapGame13 on Elon Musk's X. You can just follow the show at Shake Them Ropes. I'll occasionally post on Blue Sky. Don't really like it, but I still have an account there. That's Jeff Hawkins, Blue Sky. We are part of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. I also do another show over on Fight Game Media on Wednesdays, about 20 minutes after Dynamite goes off the air. We do the Dynamite show, myself and Figure Fours. Paul Fontaine, we do a thorough deconstruction of that night's Dynamite and all the news that happened that week in AEW. Drops in your podcatchers for free the next morning if you're just an audio type. Chris is going to plug his stuff now. I know he's been working on some stuff.
Yeah, I got a new song up on the Instagram if you want to hear it. I think it's going to be hitting Spotify in the not-so-distant future. I sent it off to my buddy to get mixed. We'll probably be putting it up. I will announce that it won't be under my name. So I think it'll be under, like... Yeah, well, this song, to give you the full story on this, back when I was in college, a friend and I one night did a bunch of mushrooms, and we went to a warehouse party. And while we were at that warehouse party, there was a drum kit and a guitar. And we did an impromptu show where I, on mushrooms, wrote a bunch of idiotic songs, all of which are like a handful of disconnected thoughts. Like Who Wants to Ride a Bike's entire lyrics are who wants to ride a bike, go ride a bike. If that's what you like, bicycle, tricycle, motorcycle, unicycle. Those are all of the words to the song. But I wrote a number of songs, all of which I actually remember. He nudges me from time to time to record them. Sometimes I blow him off, but in this case, I did not, and instead did the ultimate arrangement of Who Wants to Ride a Bike that I possibly could do. So if you were intrigued by that, go and check it out on my Instagram, instagram.com/DOCTOR_NOV. And if you want music lessons, you can hit me up on there as well. And if you don't want music lessons, well, I don't know, get another hobby.